Hello, everybody. Nice to have you. I'm here with Nadav, our director at Mammoth Factory, and we're super excited to talk about Frostwilds 2, which is the second part in our Frostwilds adventure arc. And I think before we go into the models, the undead, the bring of the storm, and the adventure, Nadav, why don't you just start with giving us a bit of a feeling of the adventure and the setting?
So, in the frozen gloom of the forest of crows, the dead have risen and stalk between the trees. The deathless terrors have long served as defenders against the greater horrors that dwell to the far north, raised to life by a mysterious storm that passes by as quickly as it blows in. Now, though, the storm lingers overhead, wreaking chaos upon the surrounding lands, for the schemes of a vengeful interloper threaten to upend the forest's magic and shatter its heart of ice.
Yes, I love it. Um, Before we go into the heart of ice and the adventure, let's just do a bit of a big picture thing first, right? Because
Mm,
this is Frostwilds 2. This month for Frostwild 1, we did all of these amazing clan warriors, the bear riders, and we're still in the same setting, but now we're getting a bit more sinister. We have these risen undeads in the forest. Um, what was like the design idea behind doing undead? Because everybody's done undead before. What makes these special?
right. So we always, thinking about the cold and the coldness of death. We thought it would be interesting to take these undead warriors and have them not, because undead are always evil,
Mm,
it would be interesting to have them guard something, right? Um, and we thought, okay, so how do we take them from somebody burying them in the snow, which this is a ice apocalyptic, basically a setting, right? Post-apocalyptic ice setting, fantasy. How do you take those people bury their dead in the snow? Um, and then once in a while, this storm passes through and it hits them with lightning. It's a really tough storm, so nobody stays outside. And in the morning, the bodies are gone, and there's no foot trails or anything. And there's whispers in the north that some forest hosts all of these souls, and those who are near the forest know that yeah, the dead reside in that forest to protect a certain heart of ice.
mm.
And that brings us to our first, the miniature that brings all of this to life is
Oh
this
yes.
bringer of storms, aptly
Oh,
named. If we can show that little fancy bird. Um,
mhm. Right. That's like a ice phoenix. I just love the design idea behind that.
yes, it's kind of like instead of it being reborn like a phoenix, it's making the others reborn. Um, and in this setting, because you're starting across the mountains to the south, then you go north, it's new lands. They have new traditions, new folklore, new shamans, new ways of death and living and life. And the elders protect us. So, and the elders protect them from the afterlife, but literally, not just by shamanism and signs of all these kind of things. They literally protect them from the giants that live even further north and their followers.
Oh, that's a teaser for later, right? Let's
Yes,
get up the Bring of Storms big.
yes.
I think we have that
Oh,
one.
these masks that are being shown on screen now. Those masks are what the fallen ancestors are buried with. So they're buried with these masks. So yeah, sorry, the River of Storms. There we go. That big bird. Um, this bird is a long, long time ago. It took an affinity to this shaman woman And the tribal people from her time, when she was about to pass, they realized this, and they took her heart and through a ritual contained the heart to make it, to keep it living very, very subtly, or to the or it's not really clear exactly how they did it, but they did some sort of ritual to keep her alive, so that the bringer of storms always comes back to the forest and watches over it with all its undead followers. um, so yeah, so
So
that's why it's there. It's kind of, it's kind of a strange thing to design. How do you make undead nice? Nice
mhm.
ice and nice. Yeah.
Yeah, but that then is also interesting, right? If you play it, probably that first you had just have these undead and you're instantly, ooh, it's evil. The forest has to be evil.
Yeah.
But then there's this,
Yeah.
there's something
And
else going on.
it's kind of a neutral slash good in a way. Love, I don't know, because it's also necromancy, so it's a strange thing. They still try to kill you
Mhm.
because you're going into the forest and they're trying to protect the heart, right?
Yeah. So,
Um,
yeah. So maybe like this, yeah, lawful evil kind of thing where,
yeah. Oh, lawful
yeah,
neutral, maybe.
maybe
Technically
lawful
lawful.
neutral.
Yeah, maybe. Interesting.
Yeah, depends on your perspective. That's interesting. What are
Yes.
undead? I think that's a good thing to now also go a bit right into the adventure itself. As we said, this is Frostwilds 2. So from the adventures, we now had the Howling Peaks, and now this goes into Heart of Ice, like both as a standalone and also as a part of this campaign. How
Mhm.
does this start?
So you start by, well, you need to make your way through this forest. It's a big forest. It would take you weeks to go to either side of the forest, and um, at least at this point in the forest of this, you know that there's at least a passing that is not crazy mountains and all that sort of thing. So you're basically encouraged strongly to go through the forest. Um, and you, as you're walking towards the forest, and you're not even aware of exactly what's going on, and you know it's there, and you know that it's called the Forest of Crows, but you don't know too much about it. You encounter this passage against a mountain with a massive slope, and undead start to appear out of from above, from below. They craggle up, and this is all throughout the storm, right? So as the storm comes, you start to hear lightning, because once in a while it brings people back from the dead, right?
So you have this image of this storm, the lightning, the hands coming out of the like
Yeah,
frozen earth. Nice.
exactly. And as you fight them, once a turn, at the beginning of the turn, there's a big like lightning that hits one of them and brings them back up. So very quickly the party goes like, oh, wait a minute, this is not a good idea to stay. And also, as you're going through, more and more of them just keep coming in general, because it's the storm coming back to the forest. um, and usually, so what the party tends to do is they're encouraged to, well, run away. And they run into this hut, and they meet some of the locals that know the forest and know some of the lore, and you get some lore dump and understanding of how all of this works. Not to the point of the Heart of Ice, but they can understand that about the ancestors and the masks, and there are some ancient druid stones that can protect certain areas. For example, like the hut you're in, that's why they don't attack you there. Um, Bring of Storm. Yes, exactly. And sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. And yeah, one of the locals takes you to a temple inside the forest, and you need to sneak through the forest. And you need to make sure that dead don't see you. And it's interesting because you cannot see actually the Bringer of Storms until you're either below half health, or if you died recently or went unconscious recently in D&D terms. So you don't even know there's a bird. You just think there's a storm, right? Um, there's myths maybe of a great bringer of storms, but no, but nobody's seen it, right? No, not even the locals. Um,
So it gives like this mythical, legendary
yeah.
aspect to the Bring of the Storm.
Yes, and you think maybe
Love
you're seeing things because your friend don't see it, and it's kind of like, wait a minute, is it a vision? Is it not? There were a few moments of like people arguing in the role play in the playtest, kind of going like, "Wow, you're imagining things." Like, it's not real. And then like so there is a way to cross, which is that they take you to a temple. It's a little bit inside the forest, so you do need to go. And the undead are interesting because they only hear from I think 30 or 40 feet away, so you need to like sneak into the forest. And you need to so you need to not anger them, and there's a combination of skill challenges and all these kind of things. And you get to this temple, and in the temple you do a ritual that one of this local shamans knows how to do, which is actively drowning yourself, which could be triggering for some
No.
people. But you actually need to drown in this temple in these special waters with a certain ritual, and then you can put a mask up, and then the undead ignore you, which
Oh,
is
that
really
is
interesting,
cool. But yeah,
right?
you're now like almost a part of them.
Yes, exactly. But if you like fall or tip off or something like that, the mask can fall, and you can play with it depending on how annoying you want to be. Like if you like
Mhm.
roll that one on deck save or something like that, a mask can fall off, and then that dead are like, wait a minute, you're not dead.
And these masks, we
Yes.
talked about that, right? About making them life size as well as kind of
Yes.
props.
Exactly, exactly. So we're trying to experiment more with giving things to some FDM users as well,
Yes.
and also just props are fun, and especially in this case because you can actually wear it. So we've designed, I think we designed 6 masks for the actual minis, but we supersized 3 of them to be played in resin, but we also made little token ones that you can give. They're also fun. So
Mm,
there's like mini ones that you can put like on on your finger if you want.
mm. But that can also
And
be cool as a player to know like who has a mask currently, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. And yeah, people can custom their masks or make their own as well. But that's an interesting experience. So yeah, you need to die to get through this forest.
Oh, that's cool. And in the forest, right, we also made these 50 millimeter like beasts, the
Mm,
cravers,
yes.
which are they also in the forest or where do those show up?
Yeah, so cravers are kind of a different breed of undead that kind of are part of the local lore. They are uh, people who have eaten their friends to survive. So
Oh,
they're like they've done some bad stuff, and they're buried under these trees and with a specific ritual, and then they grow out of these shallow graves and they become these abominations that also you cannot see unless you're at half health or you've died recently, and they're really brutal. So there's like the undead that are part of the Bringer of Storms, but the forest tends, it's kind of undead with more other undead for other lore and other folklore of the region.
and these just look amazing. Like I can see
Mm,
the using those also just as some kind of demon or like outside of an ice setting,
absolutely.
just to terrorize some players with it.
Speaking of ice, I think we've done these with ice and without ice, or am I getting confused here? I don't remember.
I could not guarantee, to be honest.
And we should, yes, probably, maybe not. If I'm doubting myself, probably not. But yeah, the ice design of these that took a while because we wanted to get an ice that felt like it's through movement still. So if we can show some of the miniatures of the risen ancestors, you can see that the ice on them is it's kind of as if it was blown, like there's some rain or some water or something, and it's like it froze mid movement, right?
Mm.
Um, yeah, you can show in the actual renders of the minis. You can really see that because we did, I think, maybe 4 different designs of ice. Ice is hard to make it look because it started by looking like rock, but then it kind of looked like crystals, and then we were like, no, no, so the ice is hard to do. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, and also right, it's not just the ice on the blades, it's also like on the armor and everywhere. I That's an amazing
Mm,
design.
mm, mm,
And you said right, once in the story of the adventure, you
mm.
have drowned yourself or not, depending on how you want to
Yes.
go through the forest. And can you just leave the forest, or have
Oh
to
no no no
get
no no.
them from
So
the
as you
fiction?
get dragged into the story of the Heart of Ice, kind of, to to understand like why is this storm staying? Why usually the storm just comes and collects the dead and brings them to the forest, and then it's gone and it's done in once in a couple of months. But this time the storm is just ongoing and ongoing, and it's a bad omen, and it's scary. So the locals plead you to help them figure out what's going on. And the truth is that there is this interloper, as our
Ooh.
head writer Daniel likes to write, who is um, scheming to use the bringer of storms to her advantage because the giants have killed her village to the north. So she's coming and trying to take the bringer of storms and the army of the undead to fight the giants in the north. But the players don't
Mm.
know this. They can learn and they can figure it out and maybe use it somehow. That would be pretty wild. But the truth is that she's using pretty dark magic to do that, and it's also because the whole ecosystem of the forest and the undead and all this, it's kind of like part of tradition now of the locals. It's not not so good. So yeah, so she is trying by creating these rituals, um, of imitations of the woman that the bringer of stores was in love with. So she's creating these
Ah.
women dressed in these cloaks, singing in her voice, based on descriptions and from old folk tales and stuff like that, to try to lure the Bringer of Storms away from the Heart of Ice. And the Bringer of Storms is aware that something funky is going on, so it's staying, trying to protect, but it goes and gets distracted. And you can either, and because it's hyper paranoid at the moment that something is going to hurt its precious Heart of Ice, it fights the players as well, right? So it's kind of who is the enemy? Who is the bad
Mm.
guy here? And the funny thing is, of course, it's humans, right? It's not
As
it's
always.
not this mega monster. It's just a person with a lot of bad hurt feelings from, well,
Mm.
rightfully, I guess. I don't know. Who wants revenge? It's always revenge, isn't it? Um,
Yes, it never
yeah.
ends. There's one thing I have to mention, which is just my favorite model of this collection, which is the I think it's like Warrior of Winter's Past, if that's the
Mm,
name.
yes.
Is that just we wanted to make a super fancy model, or does that one also have its own story and place in the
Um,
adventure?
y no, yeah, I mean the the War of Winter's Past. It's complicated. You'll need to read the adventure for that one. It's a bit of a tangent to get into that one, but it's a great model. Um,
Yeah.
really great. Yeah, there's all sorts of it's complicated to get into this one, but yeah, yeah, that's more or less it.
Mhm. Oh, that sounds great. And so at the end, you have this wild encounter with no clear sides. And
Hmm.
can you actually potentially kill the Bringer of the Storm, or is that a too mighty being to be actually
It's a good
fought?
question. I think we designed it to barely be like it's supposed to be that you don't. It's supposed to be too powerful, because it's kind of like a god tier kind of. I don't know if god tier, but very, very powerful. And this adventure is only what, level 7, 8, something like that. Our adventures are now 2 levels, I think.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's supposed to be nearly unbeatable unless yeah, but it's not really interested in you. Like as long as you're not attacking the heart of ice. It's interesting because at some points, she, the woman who's trying to break the heart of ice or steal the heart of ice, um, to her advantage, she tries to get you to fight the bringer of storms to weaken it so she can trap it, right? So
Ah.
she kind of starts it around. You're kind of investigating what's going on, it's investigating what's going on, you meet each other and you're like, oh, it's you, or something like that, right? There's many ways to spin um, this kind of story.
Mhm.
Mm.
And by she, you mean this, like, yeah, woman
This,
who wants to take the army to the
yes, exactly,
giants, who's like this
exactly.
through line in the adventure.
I think her name is Kilma. That's what we settled on in the end.
Hmm.
She has this amazing kind of there we go, Kilma the Wraith Weaver. She has this kind of undead pelt. It's kind of like a scarf, but it's also an undead, and it can go to any of the undeads, and it can control them. So she can send it to wrap around one of the undeads, and then him and anybody, any undead in the area becomes controlled by her, so she can manipulate undead magic in general,
Mhm.
temporarily through this wraith spirit. And this wraith spirit is very powerful. It can actually like easily just grapple a player and just drag it like really quickly away, and it's quite a terrifying thing. She also has one of our coolest magic items we've ever made, which is this
Mhm.
arm. I'm not going to go into the specifics because it's quite grim, and you'll need to read the adventure to understand the mechanics. But if you choose to let that arm become your arm, once you kill her and win, I guess if you survive, it gives you a +2 to all your physical stats, which is just
With
awesome.
no downsides, I'm sure,
Oh,
right?
with a downside. I'm just not going to tell you the downside because I'm not sure it's fit for the stream. But it's a really cool magic item. We're probably gonna release it on its own as a card on our Reddit, so people can see. But it's quite it's pretty it's a I had it I found it hard to stomach how it works. Did somebody write puppy?
Yeah,
Oh, we're showing the magic item. There we go.
yeah.
Yeah, so that thing eats your arm um, in your sleep if you choose, or if you just lay too close to it, it just in your sleep just munch, 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 munch,
Oh
and
no.
becomes your arm. And
Yeah.
it has all sorts of other effects, but we're not gonna get into that.
What a
Yeah,
thing to end it on, I think. Let's
yeah.
just see, are there some questions from the chat or also from you, Nadav? Is there something else you think you wanted to talk about before we wrap up here?
No, yeah, I mean the final fight is great because you're fighting potentially the Bringer of Storms and Kilma and the Wraith and a bunch of undead that keep switching sides, and you're trying to stop the ritual of her trying to break the Heart of Ice. And if you're playing it as a campaign, there we go. That's the map. It's a really awesome map. And
Mhm.
this tree is like an ancient tree, and there's these rocks that create this barrier ritual. And if you bamf inside, it can like bounce off magic. And there's all sorts of really like very proud of this combat.
Mm.
But yeah, it's a great adventure, and we're trying to make things more modular, more that there's just multiple sides. This is what they want. There's not necessarily one way through, um, and that's yeah, we're quite happy with that.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Yeah, I'm excited when we finally
Nice.
release this. Yeah, I think thank you very much and can't wait for the Heart of Ice.
Yes.
Have a rampage, everybody.
Happy rampage.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.